Welcome to Data Driven Sports Betting. I'm A-Train Bets, and I use my brain to make bets. And today, what we're going to talk about is the A-Train Station settings and plays screen. So mostly what we're going to do is cover in depth how you use the plays screen to find good plays. That's why we call it the play screen, is to find the plays. All right. So what we're going to do is here, let's start though at the settings page, because the settings are what will enable us to populate the plays screen. All right. So the settings start with your bankroll size. That's how much money you have in total across all of your books combined to bet with, right? How much you are overall putting towards sports betting, right? Your Kelly multiplier. Now there's a video that goes into detail on what the Kelly multiplier is. We're not going to cover all of that here, but this is where you put in that multiplier setting at 0.25 is a good place to start. If you don't know better, leave it at that. If you do know better, then you'll know what to change and then do that. So research Kelly, understand why that risk of ruin calculator is so important in understanding our bet sizing. We will be enhancing this with confidence-based bet sizing. That's to come. It's not currently here, but it might be here by the time you're viewing this. So if your screen looks different, be advised that we're going to continue to enhance some of these settings and some of the features that are involved with A-Train Station. All that it's going to do is adjust slightly how those bet calculations are done. We'll come out with additional videos to cover that as soon as we can. The round bet 2 selection is actually really interesting because this allows you to say, hey, I am never going to play individual cents on my bets unless I get limited or something like that. I am just always going to round to the nearest dollar or round to the nearest $5. Oftentimes I'll just round to the nearest $5. You can also say I want to always round up or I always want to round down. And in that is because sometimes you don't want to play over an amount or under an amount. Like, you can choose. So I just round to the nearest. I don't overthink it. There's a lot of margin and error in individual pieces of this. If you're trying to slice it too thin, you're probably overthinking it. So we want to be very thoughtful, but we can't imagine precision. You have to be thoughtful on things you can actually measure. On our bet sizing, rounding to the nearest dollar or $5 is probably reasonable, right? Unless you're at a micro scale bankroll, that's understandable. Or if you're arbitraging and you really want to dial it in perfectly, that's understandable as well. Details open in different windows. So this, all that means is whether or not you want, when you click on that play in the plays screen, which we're about to get to, if you click on it, it will either open in the same window or it'll open in a new window or a new tab on your browser, because that is just dependent on how you want to actually make it usable for you. So some people will have it in an entirely separate window where it'll just bounce back and forth. You can choose that. You know, I like to do it in a separate window, mostly because I'm streaming a lot of the time. And so I want to have it as big as possible so people can read it. You can display prices. Right now, we only have the American odds enabled. We're also going to have decimal odds pretty soon, so that if you're not in the US, you're likely using decimal odds. We will be supporting that. We actually do a lot with decimal odds behind the scenes. It's just we don't always display it. So we haven't yet enabled that in this current version. You can see once we do, that will be that. And that's on the short list for enhancements post-launch as well. And we're recording this slightly before launch, knowing that things are going to change, but also knowing that you need to have some stuff to work with at launch. So here you go. The play screen, just clicked on it. Got a lot going on. You're going to see a bunch of plays based on the default weightings or the weightings that you have. Now, if we cover weightings, I don't want to go into great detail on the weightings right now, but what I can say is all of your books, you have sharpness weightings. There's an average weighting of 1. You can have higher weightings like Pinnacle. We have as our default at 5. And we're just going to save that weightings for a separate video. We really want to focus on the play screen here. So on the play screen, you can search and you can do things like say, I'm only interested in college right now. Type in college and you can see all the games are coming in for college basketball because there's no college football. We are past bowl season now. You could say, I don't want college. And you see there's no college in that list, right? So that's what the search will do. And it's pretty powerful and it's super fast. That's one thing with A-Train Station that we pride ourselves on, is making things fast because you got shit to do. You know, we don't want to waste your time with pages loading. We want to make sure this stuff is good. Right. So you can choose to group by game or not. I always leave the group by game on. Just it helps me understand how I'm approaching each event. You can hide your already bet. So if I hide already bet and hit apply, you'll see the orange one down here goes away. So we're now focused on the bets that we can make that are new, which is often what you're doing when you're trying to make bets, right? One-way and two-way lines. So what this is going to be doing is showing us whether we want just the positive EV plays, or if we click onto the two-way lines, we can hit apply. And what you're going to see is what are going to be opportunities for arbitrages, basically. And so what we're seeing here is that because we have a minimum EV percent on the two-way line of 0 here, we're only looking at the arbitrage opportunities, which mean I can play both sides of this at a 0 or higher percentage. So in this case, like, they offset perfectly, which might be useful if I wanted to get some points or do a low hold on a play or something like that. So there's a lot of reasons why you would use a two-way line: arbitrage, low holds, the free plays, things like that are going to be why you would use a two-way line. And we'll cover that in more detail on our arbitrage video. But what we can see here is that if you play both sides, you have a net profit. So here I could play DraftKings and FanDuel. If I play them both, I got a 25-point arbitrage right now. That's pretty amazing, right? So that's how this screen allows us to see opportunities that we may not otherwise have, because both of these are at a pretty high odds number. I may not see those otherwise, right? So that's what that would allow you to do. So that's the two-way line. The one-way line is where we'll focus most of our energies for this video. So let's hit apply on that, and let's continue to go on. So a lot of times I will play 1.5% or 2% minimum EV thresholds. Let's just do 1.5% right now. We'll hit apply again. You don't have to hit apply each time. I'm just showing you what each iteration does. Sometimes you'll want to have a max odds. This is just basically saying, I don't want to play things that are too big of underdogs, because things get a little bit funky in the math as you start to devig with higher underdogs and favorites. And a lot of times people are hesitant to play big underdogs because it's going to lead to fairly high swings due to variance, right? So underdogs don't win all the time, but when they do win, you get paid a lot. Whereas favorites win most of the time or more of the time. And when they do lose, you lose a lot relative to how much you're earning with these over time. So it's just a matter of preference. I like to leave mine at 250 width. And here's the big secret. So with width, you can set the width calculation, which is actually right here. So this is going to be, we want at least one book to have a width of 40 or lower is how this works. And you'll probably see that there's a label here that says hold percentage on your version of this. But if you see, I will do 6.5% on the hold percentage, because I want to be using hold, because that's a much more direct reflection of the confidence of a sports book, which is what we care about in terms of viewing their lines as being sharp. We want to look at those books that have enough confidence in their lines to have a low enough hold that it's worth playing. And so the hold or the VIG for a sports book is how they make their money. And when they have a higher hold, they're effectively charging more for you to make a play than when they have a lower hold, you're charged less to make a similar play. So it's correlated, it's calculated by width, but the actual percentage depends on where on that underdog favorite spectrum those are. So we show both values in our plays screen so that you can calibrate which ones you want to look at most. Now, a lot of times you're going to dial in these filter and, searching and sorting criteria so that you have what's in this list is probably all fairly interesting to look at, right? And so what you do is you go through the list and you say, okay, let's look at some stuff. Let's go to FanDuel. Let's click on that. You go to your bet detail screen. You'll be like, okay, I may or may not want to play this. And we have another video that covers the detail screen, so we're not going to go into detail on that. But say you did play it, whatever, and you went through these other things, you could hit hide on that, and that game goes away. You just say, all right, I'm done with that game. Let's move on to the next game. And you can look at all of this. One of the interesting techniques that you can use is if you go to the books and you can say, all right, you know what? I don't want to look at all of the books right now. I just want to look and see what's at DraftKings right now. What's at DraftKings? I'm going to go bet at DraftKings right now. What are the best plays at DraftKings? All I did was select that book, go back to the play screen, and now I've got to re-enter my filters because I didn't save them in a bookmark, but I can easily go in and say hide already bet, go 1.5%, go to my width of 6.5%, which it knows as soon as you put a percent in, and it knows you're going for hold percentage instead of width. And so now I can see, all right, DraftKings, these are plays that I'm interested in now. These are the plays that I now want to explore and understand. So let's go through and what are the details on this? What is the plays details actually mean? So what you see here, 7 results in 6 events. I'm going to go on a limb and say you can figure out what that means. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 events, 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 results. Got it. Good. All right. First percent, EV percent. So this is the calculated EV based on the weightings that you're using. So the weightings that we set up in this weighting screen, this is the percent that's calculated based on the no vig line or the fair odds line that is determined by the weightings that you use. If you're using default weightings, good on you. That's fine. If you're using just a Pinnacle or just a Pinnacle plus Bet Online, which is what I use a lot of the time, then you'll have those percentages. So you can determine how the calculations are done because this is your tool. It's not my tool, it's your tool. You can set it how you want, right? So that is what this first column is that percent EV. And I could look at it and just so you can see that 4.05% is here at DraftKings based on the default ratings. And actually you see 4.05 here. Now, what you just may have noticed is that now these are kind of lightly highlighted because I've clicked on this, that highlighting has gone away. So that's one kind of little thing that we do in the A-Train station to help you know where you are, keep your place, and understand what to go on to next. Really, really useful. So number 22, the number 22, the $22 here, that represents the recommended wager size. So you see on the detail screen, it also says here $22. $22 here, recommended wager size. This is the sports book that you would make the play at. This is the kind of bet market that it is. This is the aggregate book sharpness. So this one's important to understand, especially when you're using like the default weightings or whatever. What the 7 means is that when I'm in this market browser page, when I'm in the bet details is what we often call it, these numbers added together, this is your aggregate book sharpness weighting. That's what this number means. But you may say, "Hey, Train, what's about with the green here? Why do you have green on some of them?" Well, on those, if I bring that one up, what that means is that there's a Pinnacle line available. All right, there's a Pinnacle line available on that particular play. And because Pinnacle is such a target book for so many people, we wanted to give an easy way for people to see that line is available. I'm just going to bring back up that other play. Hopefully it's still the same. Yeah, it is still the same. Okay, good. So that's what that green on that means. This is obviously the bet details. You're going to bet, if you're betting for this 4% calculation, the Arizona Cardinals -4, that's what's here. That's the play that they're going to recommend that you make on this. And again, we have a separate video on the bet details screen, so we'll cover that later. Plus 234, that is the odds at which you're going to make that play. So plus 234, those are the odds at DraftKings. And you'll see that on the detail screen as well, because that's where you're going to be determining whether or not you're actually going to make the play. This is kind of just that first pass of, is this interesting enough to dive deeper to see, do I want to make this bet or not? You go to the bet details, you really dive in, you're like, yes, I like this. I like this. This is what all the data and all of its nuance comes together at that focal point to say, here's what you might want to do. And that's the key, is that you want to be thoughtful on all of these things. But what we do at A-Train Station is try to make it as easy as possible for you to be thoughtful on these types of things, because there's a lot of data to sift through. So if we can focus in and help you understand, here's what you need to do, then it's that much easier to do. That means you can have longer betting sessions and be more accurate in your decisions throughout. And that's why we always talk about the next 5 minutes, next $5. That's how we solve for that, is to make sure that you can make the decisions necessary to be made as quickly as possible with all the information and precision possible. And that's what we're constantly trying to get better and better at. I mean, this is constantly evolving, and we are improving it in every way. So finally, on the right-hand side here, so you have the odds that you play at. This is the minimum on the hold. So 5.58 is the minimum hold we see in that market. Currently at BetRivers and Unibet, which is a little bit unusual, but that's what it is on this particular play. And then 60 is the minimum width. And so if you're used to using minimum width, this is a good example of where this width, most people wouldn't be playing this based on width alone. However, because you're dealing with such underdogs and favorites and you're using a hold percentage, you realize, hey, even though the width is high, the hold percentage is actually not that bad. This might be a playable play. This is why I use hold, not width. And when I determine these, what I'm playing. All right, so that's that. Finally, you see the information on the game itself. So this is when the actual event takes place. So you can see that, and that's useful, especially as you're going out to the sportsbook to make a play. You're going to use that date and time to help find that play and navigate to that as quickly as possible. So that is really what the play screen is all about. And this is really a useful tool. And everything we do at A Train Station is about helping you interact and get to the best plays for you with the books that you have, with the weightings that you want to use, in a way that there's good defaults that you can start with, and then you can get deeper and deeper, and the tool will support you. And that was one of the reasons that we created A Train Stations, that we felt like the tools out there were very one-dimensional, is that they would just tell us, here, make these plays, but we didn't know why. We couldn't tell why. We wanted to be transparent, and we wanted to be able to help people grow into the sharpest sports bettors they can be, because that's the game we're playing. We're playing a game where we can evolve our strategies and our analysis methods to find the best plays, to find the best edges, to make the best return on our betting investments that we can. And that's part of the game, is constantly evaluating and getting better at what you're doing. You need a tool to do that and help you do that. And that's what we've tried to create with A Train Station. I think we've been pretty successful doing it. So this video was all about that play screen, giving you an understanding of how that is. Again, that's going to keep evolving quickly. We'll redo this video once it evolves enough that this video really needs to be updated. We'll do that. But for now, hopefully that gives you pretty good glimpses to what it looks like. You may see some additional things or some changes on the actual version you're using. And just note, this happens at a point in time. We wanted to create a video, but at launch, we wanted to at least give you something that would help you orient to what's going on in this play screen and what might I do with it to adjust what I'm doing as a bettor. So with that, thank you all for watching and learning with me. And please check out the other videos. We have a playlist of all of the things related to A Train Station. We have a bunch of videos on becoming a sharp bettor. I'm here to help you. Please feel free to like and subscribe and comment and all of that stuff. Be part of this A Train Station community. There's many ways to do it. You can always go to atrainbets.com, find links to a bunch more content, bunch more information. And ultimately, our goal here is to help everyone have an opportunity to win money sports betting, have an opportunity to have a fair fight, a fair chance to beat the sports books. They don't want you to do it, but we believe that you should have that opportunity, and you can do that with data-driven betting. That's what we're here to help you do. And certainly don't be afraid to reach out and let us help you in any way we can. Because quite frankly, we've been on the other side of this and it's no fun. Everybody needs to know about this, and that's why we're here to help. So with that, thank you, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.